Well, this is awkward. Looks like I have either the worst timing ever, or I'm a wizard. Because just one day after I publicly complained, a new set of questions has popped up. That's right, it's Palia's October 2022 QA session. I'm going to start by setting some expectations here. This month there are 5 total questions and about that many answers. This is a very low number, in part because the team doesn't accept questions that they've answered before. So in order to make this not as boring, I'm also going to look at what we've actually learned from the answers and give my own follow-ups for each of the 5 questions. I won't be posting these to the Discord though, because follow-ups do not add variety, and as we all know, we do not want them answering the same repeated questions for 40% of a once-a-month answer session, right? So we have our first question. Can you go more in depth on how cooking will work? Will there be ingredients that we can forage for, etc.? Essentially, cooking will start by learning a recipe, either from a skill, discovering them, or starting with them. From there, you can forage for or farm the ingredients needed for said recipes. Finally, there are some mini games that you can play in the actual cooking process. These are single player or co-op with friends and are described as hectic but fun. Also, if you do everything perfectly, you'll be able to place the dishes that you make as a decoration in your home. So with that said, what did we actually learn from this answer? Surprisingly little, as recipes and the cooperative nature of cooking have been shown off and talked about, and we've seen screenshots of pies everywhere. And we knew the game was going to have gardening and such already. So my follow-up question for the team would be, can you go into more detail about the cooking systems? And this time, can you actually do it? Will we receive crafting materials or trophies from hunting, fishing, and bug catching, and will there be enough creatures with varying rarities to keep the activities interesting? Wait, this question sounds familiar. So if you don't remember, last month's first question was about player progression and how Palia intends to keep players coming back to the game. They answered with long-term high-level things with no actual answers as to what the gameplay would do to keep people coming back. So we get this question, and obviously they'll regale us with information telling us about the rewards, trophies, or how the gameplay loop will bring people back to the activities beyond a cursory playthrough. And they wrote 2 lines. Honestly, the question was longer than the answer. How do you find that acceptable? Okay, to answer the question, you'll get some reward, potentially decor pieces, which unlock based on your skill level, not as a result of your efforts in the field. There will also be various creatures, although there's no mention of rarities at all. What did we learn? Honestly, struggling to come up with anything right now. They've shown off a variety of fish and bugs already, and shown off ways that we can display them. And talked about unlocking decor with skill upgrades multiple times. So I guess we learned that they hopefully maybe won't forget about these features post-launch, pretty please? I guess my follow-up question would be, as far as hunting, fishing, and bug catching are concerned, how will the gameplay loop actually work? Will there be challenges and actual rewards for doing them, or will they just be there, forgotten and alone? So we're entering the 50% mark, and these answers have been a solid 0 so far. Let's see if they can begin to turn this around. Will NPC questlines be expanded upon after the initial launch, and will characters stay relevant? Really swinging for the fences with these questions. Okay, let's review what we know about the story and how it will work for the content updates really quickly. There is a mystery in the world, the disappearance and return of humans, as well as some smaller storylines that involve the NPC villagers. From these, you can learn more about the characters and the world. These will all be somewhat limited at launch, with new story dropping in content updates post-launch. Due to the chosen storytelling method, there are a few ways that these updates can expand the story, but the main ones are through expanding the existing character stories, creating new characters for the main story, or a combination of the two. With that in mind, this is also a life sim game, so your interactions with characters and relationships with them are paramount, not just in a story sense, but also as characters in the game. So with all of that in mind, the answer is simple. There are a set amount of quests at launch, but these will be expanded with updates. There will be additional friendship, romance, and general quests post-launch, and you can also visit characters in the world, even without questing, because remember, they have daily schedules. So, what did we learn? I guess we learned that there are plans to increase friendship and romance quests post-launch, which honestly would be really surprising if they didn't do, given the nature of the game, but I think that's all. My follow-up question would be, given the characters will be returning, or I guess staying since they don't really leave, for future updates, how will you balance the need for new characters with fleshed out stories with the already existing characters in the game? And at this point, I would like to remind you that some highly voted questions may not have been answered because they have already been answered in the past. On to question 4, I guess. Can you tell us more about the efforts put into crafting the Majiri language? Was it part of the world building from the start? Ah, yes. Another throwback to last month, where they talked about the language of the Majiri being a cipher for the English language. Probably a better decision than having English everywhere, because the game will also be available for those speakers of not English. And also it helps show that time has passed beyond humans in a world where they haven't really been around for thousands of years. The team wanted the culture of the Majiri to feel unique, not tied to any current ones, and language is a major part in cultures and their development. So with this in mind, they decided to go for a pictorial language as a cipher and tasked their lead concept artist, whose name I would butcher, so I'll just put it here and leave a link to their Twitter in the description, with creating said language. Didn't even answer the second part. Okay then, what did we learn? A little bit actually. We learned that the team is actively taking strides to create the unique culture of the Majiri and are deliberately taking actions with that in mind. This is something that could be guessed from previous Q&A sessions, but it is more clear now. That said, I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on the Majiri, but very little about the other races that we've seen, such as the Grimalkin, and whether they have their own cultures, languages, or customs that may clash with the Majiri in Kalima Village. If not, that's sort of a major oversight. So with that said, my follow-up question would be about that. Will we see depictions of other cultures and languages, such as the Grimalkin, in-game, and how will they integrate with and clash with the Majiri culture that we've seen more prominently? And with that, we've also seen that they can actually answer questions, just not ones about the game. And somehow, if you've made it this far, you've reached the last question. Does this feel like the single worst QA session so far to you guys? Wait, that's not the question. The question is actually, will there be starter templates for houses for those of us who are, let's say, interior design challenged? To put it simply, I cannot decorate to save my life, and my general idea on how to get a place that didn't look like trash at the start of this game was going to be to ask you guys to help with that. But for those of you who don't have a you guys, surely there's a starter template somewhere. You know, you pick a set, you're told where to place things, or even you just fill the set and it comes pre-decorated. But no, that's not how any of it will work. Instead, you start with an empty room and gain furniture through the furniture making skill. Real surprise there. These furniture pieces come in sets, so you can generate with stuff that generally doesn't clash, but there's no real help given to where or how to place things to get them to look good, which is a little bit bigger of a problem since in the same answer they mentioned that there are advanced options for placing decorations, which while helpful will only widen the looking good gap. So what did we learn? There are currently no tools to help those of us that actually struggle to make rooms look decent and just want a place that doesn't disgust everyone that visits. We've also learned that there are optional advanced options for placing furniture. Hopefully these can get somewhere near the level of detail as the 18-year-old MMO Star Wars Galaxies. What would I ask as a follow-up? How much actual control will I have over the placement of furniture? Can I place a sofa on the wall, a bed upside down on the ceiling? Or is it all standard, not Star Wars Galaxies in 2004 levels of decoration? Now, if you're sitting here like me thinking, wait, that was only half of the questions, and it took like 6 weeks. What gives? Part of the reason for that is that the team had an in-person summit where the now nearly 150 member team met in person for the first time in a few years. They posted a few questions that they did with a couple of the team members, but those relate to the game and info that were released in the question and answer session very, very poorly. So if you want to read them, they're the second half of the team answers for the month for some reason. In other news, a new member of the team also introduced themselves on the Discord, specifically as the community team lead, and will be the touch point for all the content creators, such as streamers, artists, writers, and cosplayers. It looks like I'm still in the clear here, because as a YouTube critic and ranter, I'm not on their list. But on the off chance that they are watching this, welcome to the team, good luck, and I hope I'm not causing too much of a headache for you. But seriously, I hope it all goes well for you and that the community isn't too bad. And with that, if you want to see why I'm a headache for the community team and their new lead, here's a video to showcase that. Thanks for watching.